Before we can understand why ARKON is dominating the market today, we have to understand where this all started way back in 2018.
We knew we wanted a really strong, aggressive name that when you wrote it out had a really aggressive look to it.
It's happening before your eyes. You don't even realize kind of what it's all accumulating to be or how big it's going to be. It's just exciting in the moment to do.
To finally have an in-house wheel, I was one of the big advocates for an in-house brand at the beginning.
By bending something, creating that arc is how you create strength.
You know, there's people out there that absolutely love these wheels and are running them, and we still act like it's a very small thing when I guess in reality it's really not.
And that's how they get the strength of a wheel, is by creating a continuous arc. So Steve reached out to me. We had asked him a year ago what would happen if we wanted to start our own wheel line, and he actually was super interested in helping any way he could. So this time he reached out to us and said, "Are you guys ready yet? Because I would definitely go partners with you if you wanted to launch a wheel line."
So at that time, Custom Offsets and SD Wheel had already been working together for about 5 years. But what we had was one super huge powerhouse of a warehouse and then a giant marketing brain that was absolutely killing it on social media. But the two had to come together so we could start this new proper directional wheel revolution and do something big, something bold, and something exciting.
My name is Jared. I have been with ARKON since essentially day -400. So everything involved with creating ARKON just became super appealing to me, to the point where I decided to essentially leave the Custom Offsets team to help start the ARKON team and what we were going to be doing with this brand as far as everything involved.
Yeah, I think ARKON was created to solve a lack of show truck brands in the industry. I'm John Chartier. I'm the lead designer for Enthusiast Enterprise brands ARKON, Anthem, and Anovia. I think at the time, I don't believe there was like a brand dedicated to the show truck arena per se. So like we did designs with that in mind, bigger sizes. We started with the directional wheels, which nobody else was doing. They had directional, but not true directionals.
And we got to a point where we had all these designs, and I think it was like in the 23rd hour, we were about to outsource it and have somebody else do it. And Jeremy goes, "Well, do you want to just look at the ones I came up with yesterday?" And we're like, "Wow, where did Jeremy come from?" He threw his up on the screen, and I think everybody in the room went, "Yep, that's it." And I think a logo is like that. When you see it, and you'll know it's the one when you see it. And that's exactly what happened when he put his designs up on the TV in front of us. It's those details that we constantly are picking away at to try to stand out and make something unique for our buyer.
In the very beginning, we first started talking about ARKON, and it's always one of those things where it's a cool idea, and then that idea kind of trickles and it kind of snowball effects, and all of a sudden you have people who are starting on designs and starting on logos.
Jared, what are we doing today?
Making the short logo, don't get that close, I'm barely awake. Making the short logo for ARKON Off-Road, and it's done.
Sean had an idea we're all wheel guys, let's see what you guys could come up with as far as designs. I ended up having multiple designs and kind of just took off from there. I just started designing all the wheels.
What this one is this is John's drawing that he drew from scratch.
Christ, you just call us John Off-Road Wheels.
Right? I'm going to tell him when he gets back, go ahead and put ARKON lead designer in your email.
If you want to successfully create any new business or new brand, you need to have something that's innovative, something that's new, or you need to solve a problem for someone. And in order for ARKON to stand out in the wheel world, we needed to do something drastically different, and that's where proper directional came into play.
Biggest thing ARKON has that no one else does is proper directional wheels. Now, the concept's fairly simple.
It had directional, but not true directional, so there wasn't a left and a right side. It was just one direction.
Forged wheels, notoriously, if they were directional, it was one way only. The other side went the opposite way.
So you would have to run the same direction on the opposite side, which in return looked like the wrong side.
The fact that no one was taking the time to create the two molds needed to do this gave ARKON an advantage over pretty much anyone else in the industry.
So one side of your truck looked cool, the other side looked absolutely
by just taking a little bit extra time to focus on the quality of our cast wheels and not just pumping out cast wheels for numbers.
And a big wheel back then was like a 22-inch. Like, that was huge. 24s? 24s were massive, but you had forged wheels if you had 24s because nobody made anything that big.
So we said, hey, why not take after the forged wheels and make them left and right side, so you had to go in all one direction no matter what side you were on.
ARKON aimed to fix that problem. So we spent the money, got twice the molds, twice the inventory, twice the SKUs to actually give you proper directional wheels. So that meant you had a separate part number for left and right so that they could all be facing the same way. But that wasn't the only thing that ARKON was doing to set themselves apart.
Back in the day, there's a very big difference between forged wheels and cast wheels. You know, you could definitely tell the difference between the two when you looked at them. There's a really big gap in the market there for big wheels that had forged designs that cost significantly less because they were, in the end, cast wheels. So, thus, there's ARKON.
So in the show truck wheel scene, forged wheels were really all the rage at that time. They had the best designs, the flattest faces, the thinnest spokes, and that's what everyone was looking for. But like I said, ARKON was focused on making cast wheels. So what's the difference here between a cast wheel and a forged wheel, and why is ARKON looking to do cast wheels? Well, those forged wheels are super expensive. They're made out of a solid chunk of aluminum, and the machining process takes a long time, and like I said, they're pricey. Whereas ARKON was focusing on the cast wheels because in the end, we could bring the end consumer, the user, you guys, the customer, a more affordable wheel and still achieve that excellent styling, the thin spokes, the concavity, the infinity lip, all of that you're looking for, but in a more affordable package. So the cast wheel is going to be a combination of metals. It's an aluminum alloy that they're blending together and then pouring into a mold. And through this huge, long refining process, you then eventually get a wheel that looks like what we ship right to your door.
We decided that we're going to announce to the world while they're here, and also to the internet, because we hadn't even told them yet, that we're going to go ahead and launch this ARKON wheel brand. I think that was one of the best moments because we finally got to tell everybody the secret we've been keeping for months as we're working on this project. So we have one more thing that we've been hiding from the world. Well, we're kind of getting tired sitting on the sidelines, so we're going to jump in the game. We will be launching ARKON Wheels, which will be our very own manufactured and designed. So we'll basically be unstoppable and take over the whole world. And you are here to witness it. One of the funnest moments was the day that it went from marketing plans and rendering wheels to we come to work and there's boxes and they look an awful lot like wheel samples.
So can we see?
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. I actually do kind of like it. Tearing into these boxes and boom, there was something that we napkin sketched 3-4 months ago, and now we're standing there holding wheels and getting to see our actual napkin sketches turn into real wheels. I think that's when rubber hit the road and we realized this was the real deal and we actually had a wheel brand.
So at the time that these big lipped wheels were becoming popular, that's when ARKON was still being drawn onto napkins. We're still coming up with the ideas for what we want to do, and not only just be proper directional, but also incorporate some other styling cues.
So this is the ARK 3, which everybody's in love with.
Oh, is that concave too? I was gonna say, I think
You haven't seen this yet. You should have somebody else hold the camera.
So like I said, the big deep dish wheels were becoming super popular, but we were also seeing some concavity, and ARKON said, well, why not both? So they created designs that gave you this huge infinity lip. You're giving the big deep dish wheel look that you wanted, while also giving you some concavity and still incorporating the proper directional styling.
I mean, one of the characteristics of the ARKONs is the infinity lip. That is what we call it.
Now, most wheels have a ridge in the middle of the barrel, and it kind of stops your lip dead in its track. Whereas ARKON said, let's push that ridge as far back as we can and finish it on the entire surface to give you the infinity lip.
The wheel design itself, in my opinion, is what sets a build apart the most, because you can kind of take it any way you want. You can go more classic with it and make all the old guys happy. You can go 26x14 with it and make all the new kids happy. Or you can find a middle ground and do some 22x12s. And it just kind of sets your build apart by that extra like half step.
I think the biggest testament to ARKON is we kind of stayed true to who we are and true to that show truck scene, and we just tried to stick to what we initially set out to do.
The biggest thing for me with ARKON is it did give me my first opportunity to build a vehicle specifically for SEMA, build a dedicated show vehicle for the company. Obviously, I ran them on every other truck I've had since then, as far as show trucks go.
At the end of the day, the wheel itself is the center point of the truck build. And having ARKON wheels on your truck does just a little bit more than every other brand out there, because you're seeing that extra time, care, design influence.
People spend, their hard-earned money on something that I designed and created, and I think that's the biggest enjoyment I've gotten out of it.
Seeing the designs that, Sean and John have created over the years, it's cool to see that people like them. It is cool that it's our brand.
It's just a cool feeling to know that something that we've spent so much time on and so much effort on and so much care on, people like enough that they're running on their personal vehicles. And I think that's what it's all about,
I think the most exciting thing about the future of ARKON is trying to keep that show style.
There's people out there that absolutely love these wheels and are running them, and we still act like it's a very small thing when I guess in reality it's really not anymore.
We're still listening to the audience, still hearing what you guys have to say. And with that, we've also been noticing some design cues in the industry that a lot of the fancy forged wheels are doing, that not a lot of the cast side is doing, and ARKON's all about finding that middle ground between cast and forged.
We're gonna have some interesting stuff coming out, trying to keep up with, the trends when it comes to that. Got a couple new designs coming out.
I guess what I'm trying to say is there's some cool stuff coming you're going to see.
Who does ARKON look like in 3 years? What is ARKON going to become someday? What are we going to be when we grow up was really the conversation. As we started to do that, we really started to nail down what we were going to be doing with the brand long term.
So now I hope you can see that ARKON is more than just another cast wheel company. They really truly are living up to their name, and they're here to rule the proper directional movement.
So to stand here in front of you guys and say, hey, we came up with a name for a wheel company, and all the work that it took to get here today to have half the parking lot full of ARKON, that means a lot to us. And I just want to say that I really, really, really appreciate that.
And if you think that's it, we're just getting started.